Hello, thanks for tuning in to one of our positive transaction videos. I'm Tony Skursky, the broker here at Transaction Realty, and today we're going to be talking about title in the title company and the role of the title company. And today we have Don Folino from Cleveland Home Title. Hi, Don.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having me out here today. Looking forward to going over a couple things with you.
Absolutely. One of the first things that I'm always asked is, what is the role of a title company for a buyer or seller? Like, what's a typical transaction?
The basic version for us in that role, we're a true neutral third party to the transaction. So, our involvement is kind of coordinating all the different pieces that are involved with the realtors, the clients, the lender, and anything else that might come up to ensure that everything is met and the guidelines are met with the purchase contract.
So the title company really doesn't make any decisions for the buyer, the seller, or realtors, is that correct?
That is correct. We offer questions, but it's not our role to make any decision one way or another.
So I hear a lot about questions about title insurance. What is title insurance and who is it actually protecting?
It's the biggest question we get too. So title insurance, when you're purchasing a home, it's most likely your largest investment that you're going to make. The role of title insurance is to protect that investment. So as a title company, we're going to do an exam and an extensive research on that property to ensure that everything is in line, there's a clear chain of title, and we're going to make sure that it's as clean as possible so that the buyer can be comforted that they're buying a nice home and they actually have legal rights to it. Now, the role of title insurance comes into play. We do our due diligence to make sure that we cover all the bases. But along the way, different items can happen or pop up that, maybe there's somebody else that has some interest in that property that you now own. Prime example, and we saw this recently, is somebody contested a will. So 2 previous owners ago was selling the property. Courts and attorneys determined who had the interest to sell the property and moved it forward. Well, there was another heir that kind of came to and was contesting that. So in all that involvement as a buyer, that could be really scary that maybe you don't have sole interest in the property anymore and somebody else is going to put claim. So insurance is going to cover you as the owner up to the value of the purchase for the home to ensure that if anything were to come up, that you're covered. So that you don't have to fight any legal fees or anything along that line.
Don, with title insurance, who's actually paying for that?
99% of the time in this region, it's split between the seller and the buyer. It's going to be standard in most contracts and spelled out that way. So you're not paying the full amount. It's going to be split between both parties. But there are the standard policies that are issued majority of the time, but we have an enhanced policy as well that we can issue.
Don, when can I expect a title company to get involved in the transaction when I am a buyer or seller in the transaction?
It's pretty immediate. Your realtor or yourself could turn in the purchase contract to us. From there, we have a couple different steps that we take part, but for you, for a seller, we issue what we call a seller authorization packet. So there's some basic information that we'll need from a seller. All this information gives us authority to act on your behalf to ensure that the property, we're meeting all the needs of the contract. And then we kind of go quiet in the transaction from that point, maybe a couple weeks. If anything comes up that we need, we communicate it right away to the clients as well as the real estate agents involved to make sure that we hit everything head on and then we don't wait and cause any delays in the transaction. But sometimes you might hear us, up front, and if everything's smooth and going great, you might not hear us until, a couple days prior to close date to call and schedule your signing appointments. And there's a couple different variables that determine when that final step would be.
Now, if a couple's married and only one wants to put the home in their name, how does the title company get involved in that scenario?
That's interesting. I mean, in the state of Ohio, there are dower rights. So the spouse has rights to a property, whether their name is on title or not. So putting it in a single person's name, we do have to disclose their marital status on the deed along with that. And then going to sell, in that case, sometimes if it's only one spouse that's on the deed, the other spouse is releasing dower rights, authorizing that spouse that's on the deed to sell the property, knowing. And there's different variables, and sometimes divorce comes up when it comes to that too, and the marital status and those agreements along the way. And we just try to do our best to bring in all involved parties to make sure that everyone's on the same page and we can move forward with the transaction. A lot of things are fluid across the country. A lot of different variables might change, but we just ensure that we meet, the state regulated guidelines to pursue the transaction.
When could I expect a call if I'm a buyer or a seller? When could I expect a call to sign for my final documents?
It depends. So for I would say a traditional transaction, so you got a buyer, seller, and a lender involved. The lender is the one that's really going to dictate that final signing date or the final closing date. And from there, we have a couple days leeway, hopefully, to get you signed and get moved forward and then transfer on the date that they determine. So about a year ago, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issued a lot of new regulations for the real estate industry. One of them is a 3-day disclosure rule. So that being said, the lender is responsible for sending the buyer a closing disclosure form, which is going to list all your financial information with the loan, purchase price, all your fees, and it's a very basic form so that you're understanding what's coming ahead for you with their involvement as well. Now the lender, once they send that, you acknowledge that you receive it. It's 3 days until you can sign. So the minute the lender lets us know on that final close date, issues us the documents, we're going to call you right away to schedule that appointment. And just based on their information on that close date, we'll give you a call and kind of set up from there. The seller end, even though there is a lender and you might not be involved with them, most lenders have some sort of form that the seller needs to sign. So we do need to wait for those documents to come. So that's, you kind of play into that 3-day rule as well. But there's more flexibility. So once we have the close date, we have that document, we could sign you that day. We'll wait the 3 or 4 days, whatever it needs to be, to sign. It's really more on the buyer, is very strict on the date that they can sign.
Don, I'm getting a lot of questions about bank-owned properties. The sellers, the banks, are giving the buyers a quitclaim deed. Should the buyer buy additional insurance to protect themselves?
We definitely recommend it. It is a big investment for most folks. We want to make sure that you're protected if anything comes up. With a quitclaim deed, really no background information is being done on that property. No one's ensuring that property is clean title, there's no liens. It's just kind of signing it over, and then here you go, Tony, here's your new home. You want to make sure you're protected, that background leading up to that point is clean, and there's nothing that can come out of the woodworks that is going to cost you the home, whether it be zoning or permits that weren't pulled, or there was another person that's now claiming interest, or there was forgery involved prior to that sale. So you definitely want to make sure that you're protected. It's a one-time fee when you purchase the home. You pay for the insurance, and it's good for the amount of time that you have interest in that property to protect you.
And what is that insurance called?
That would be an owner's policy for title insurance. There's also a lender's policy, which if there's a lender involved, it would protect the lender up to the loan value of the home, but lender only wouldn't protect the owner. So you definitely want to make sure you have your owner's policy involved. And if you are having a lender's insurance, lenders require that there is a lender's policy. In the state of Ohio, we're authorized to issue a simultaneous issue rate. So you get pretty discounted. It's not much more to add on to owners, so it's not like you're paying for owners and then the lenders as well. It's slightly more, and it's going to cover yourself as well as the lender.
Don, as a seller, how do I get my proceeds from the sale once it transfers?
2 simple ways. So we'll still issue a check. If that's the route you want to go, we'll do a certified check out of our account. We can next day air it to wherever you're at, or you can pick it up from our office once we have confirmation that it is filed. Or for simplicity, we can do a wire transfer. There's minimal fees involved with doing that, but that's the easiest way. So once we get confirmation it's filed, we'll wire it directly to the bank account that you specify, that you're named on. And then from there, some lenders release it right away to your account. Some might take a day or 2, but that's usually the easiest way and what I would say most clients prefer as well.
So if the buyers or sellers have any questions about this title work, who do they call?
They can call us directly. So usually they're going to know exactly who their escrow officer is with the phone number and email. That's provided once we start the order. They can call them at any time if any questions, or if they hear something going on and they want clarification on fees, close dates, maybe exam surveys that come up. They can feel free to call us at any time. We'll get taken care of for them.
Great. Well, Don, thanks for coming in and answering all my questions about the role of a title company, and thanks for tuning in to our positive transaction videos, and look for the next one. Thanks.